Hey everybody, we just finished an episode with Don and Laura Noble. We covered a lot of ground in this one. We're going to talk about a place that was described as like going to another planet, as well as finding water for a water well where they said there was not going to be any water that we could find.
You're going to learn about Don's very first Maranatha trip, and it included there was a plane crash, a boat getting stranded in the ocean, and then scaling a wall and breaking into a conference office. You'll also hear the story of him traveling with over 100 babies on an airplane.
We'll also get the latest update on our work in Cuba, so stay tuned. Hey everybody, welcome to Inside Missions. I'm Dustin. I'm Maranatha's communication manager alongside Christina Lloyd, our director of TV.
Hey there.
Today we're going to talk to Don and Laura Noble. Don, both of you have been on Inside Missions before. And Don, you are known by many as the leader of Maranatha, but you're also known as Laura's husband. We're so glad to have both of you.
I think that's primarily what I'm known as.
Laura works in donor relations for Maranatha. You guys have traveled around the world for Maranatha, and you've assessed a lot of potential sites for Maranatha to work. And today we want to discuss the difficult places and potential spots that we might be working around the world. People may see a beautiful finished school campus or see pictures from a really pretty church dedication, and they may think, oh, that's so nice. But Don, you may have a different level of appreciation for that project, knowing how difficult it was to even get it to that point, don't you?
Well, that's for sure. You have to be able to visualize it in your mind before you go out there and work on it. And I think God leads us in these projects so that we have, I guess, the force of push, whatever it takes to make things happen. And every project that we look at has its opportunities.
And its obstacles.
Its obstacles,
So,
yeah, of course.
Absolutely.
So, it's I like looking back. Don't always get the chance to go back and see. At least we can see pictures. But I can clearly see God's leading in these things that I didn't know he was leading on at the time we went and looked at it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's so many examples that we have of, logistical hurdles with like materials or equipment or pandemics or, governments that are making the work really hard to get permitting or whatever the issues are there. There might be political unrest, land rights issues. There's so many different things that we've had to overcome. And there's a lot of situations where it would have been easy to just say like, let's not work here, right? So why, Don, do we try so hard to find a solution in some of these places?
Well, because of the reason we exist is to change people's lives. And I think that when you're convicted that God wants you to do something, you don't just get turned down because there's a problem. I mean, you have to push through the problems because there's always going to be challenges. I mean, Satan doesn't want us to be accomplishing these projects. So just because something comes up as a challenge, we don't shut it down. We keep going. And all over the world, we've faced issues on virtually every project we do at different levels. Some are very complex and some are pretty simple. But I can remember when I first started with Maranatha a few years ago, that things that now would seem pretty simple, they're simple now, but they weren't simple then.
Yeah.
And you learn to deal with things, and you gain experience and insight, and you learn to trust God through situations that you didn't know how to do before. I mean, I've talked to people that say, "Why are you going to do this project? Who cares?" Well, somebody cares.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure, when you accept that request from a church or a school, that when those problems come up, that's in your mind. You're thinking about those people, those lives that are at stake. If we don't drill that well, they won't have water. If we don't build that school, those kids don't have access to information, education. And so it's not just a building. You're thinking about all of the lives behind those buildings that are at stake. If you just say it's too hard, we got to quit. And
usually we've vetted the project to some extent. I mean, we've talked to the board about it. They've voted it. So we're not just going to sit back and say we're not going to do it because it's too hard. No, everything's hard. I mean, everything upstream. It's upstream to do stuff that's going to accomplish for good.
Any specific projects or countries that come to mind that were particularly challenging when you look back on it?
See, have you got a list of the projects Maranatha's worked on?
I can think. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just thinking about one of the first things that came to my mind was Mozambique, because they had been in war for 30 years. And it's interesting. I don't know that we had ever really worked. Well, we'd worked in Afghanistan. That was tough. But done such a massive scale project in a country that had been in war for so long. So the roads were...
There's a lot you take for granted when society
like
is functioning well.
Yeah, you don't have a lot of the infrastructure that you're going to have. And you think, what infrastructure? Well, electricity, roads. A lot of the people that could get out got out. So people with means, education, they have other opportunities. So the people that are left, right? These are the people that survived 30 years of war. They don't trust anybody. The government doesn't trust anybody. It was an interesting situation, to say the least.
Also, a different mindset.
Yeah, totally a different mindset.
It happened to be the most difficult country in the Southern Africa Indian Ocean Division, is what they told us. So, should we go there first? Because we were just talking to the division president, and he was saying, we need you. Well, he asked for, I think he started with 50,000 requests, and he meant it. But everywhere.
That means like 50,000 buildings or locations.
Yeah, right. But so then out of all the countries in their division, they asked us to work in what they considered to be the toughest. I said, thank you.
And we did do, how many churches do we do?
I'm thinking 900.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. And there was a truckload of wells that went with that, as well as schools and kind of school campuses. Think about all those lives just water every day would be, it's incredible.
Yeah, we did 5 pretty good sized schools there.
Yeah.
Laura, you mentioned, sorry, Christina.
I think one of the things that I really liked about that project was, yes, we built schools, but the churches then became literacy centers. When you look at what the literacy situation was in a country that had been in war that long, people that can come to church and then they're able to learn how to read and write. So you're changing a completely different population of people that maybe you're not going to go to an elementary school or a secondary school. But that to me was just a really, really fabulous use of those buildings as well.
Totally. And we also had people like volunteers, bless their hearts, from Brazil that spoke Portuguese, which was the main language in Mozambique, of course. And they came to start up those schools. That's an incredible gift. And I remember walking in one of the completed schools, and they were just starting first grade. And I really hadn't prepared myself for this thing. But here's like this 20-something-year-old, nice-looking African man, like wedged into one of these first grade desks. And I was like, and he's sitting there with all these little kids. Like, I'm going to get this education. I know that it looks funny. I don't care. And I walked out of the classroom and I thought, I'm so emotional, but he knew like what he needed. And he was like, anyway, there's a lot of stuff that you don't expect,
Yeah. One of the things I didn't expect when we went into that country is God taught us the importance of water in that country. We hadn't thought about it.
Yeah, it was that country where we started doing the wells.
Yeah.
We needed a well for a school. Otherwise, we couldn't complete the school. And one thing led to another.
Yeah, I went from there, and we've been drilling wells ever since, like 4,000 of them so far. And it started there.
Well, there's an example. I mean, that would have been easy to just say, you know what, this country is, we're not sure what the status is. It's just coming out of war. Maybe we hold off on that for a while, but we pushed ahead, and it ended up, opening up this whole nother world of another pillar of work that we could do.
Yeah, like not only all the good done in Mozambique, but water came out of that
Yeah.
for so many other countries.
Plus,
So-
guess what? The division said Mozambique's not our worst country anymore.
Yeah.
Well, you also, Laura, mentioned Angola.
Oh, man. So Angola, really tough financially, another place where there is very little trust, you know? So there's really two economies in Angola, and there's one economy. Angola is one of those great countries that has, you know, all they have is gold, oil, diamonds, you know, things like that. And consequently, truckload of people from all around the world that come to sift off that top layer. And that economy is crazy expensive. Like 20 years ago, a 1-bedroom apartment, 1 bath was over $15,000 a month, 15,000 US dollars a month.
Wow.
Craziness, right? People didn't, even in the main cities, the poor people, on the other hand, are living in cardboard boxes
Wow.
and siphoning off water from somebody's hose, who knows where. So these two different people are selling their children. I mean, you just are like, oh my goodness, I can't watch this. It's just so like, what box do I put this in my head? They're so desperate to stay alive. There's virtually no education for the real poor. And people, everywhere you turn, people are trying to rip you off. We had staff members roughed up. I mean, it's just like, it was one of those countries where you're like, okay, how much more time do we,
But
you know, we committed to do this thing and we are going to do it. And then we are going to leave. And you know that, okay, Lord, you ask us to come here. Somehow we have to do this thing, you know?
Through.
Well, because one of the good things that happens in a country that's poor, people that don't have much of anything, you trust what you can trust, and you learn to trust God. These people reach out to God. If you have a big bank account, maybe you'll rely on your bank account. If you don't have resources to turn to, you turn to God. We see it all over the world. But, why is it that when Maranatha started in 1969, just in the little subculture of the Adventist Church, there was less than 2 million members. Now there's 20-some million, depending on who you talk to. And where has that growth been? Hadn't been in this country. It's been in the places that they need to rely on a higher power, and they do. And for some reason, God raised us up at the time to meet that growing need around the world. It's pretty exciting.
And I do just want to emphasize, God raised this company up. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, they're not teaching this sort of thing like, hey, I know what you can do. You can get people to come pay to work. This is a wonderful idea. They're not teaching that at Harvard. You know, I mean, this is a crazy idea. And the only reason that it works is because God is in it. And if God is in it, then we better be looking at God. And that's why you get into some of these weird situations, you know, because God has led you there.
Yeah.
And I think that the volunteer portion of what we do helps take people out of their comfort zone here and show them a little piece of what life is like in other places, that trust that you have to have. You know, it's definitely not on the scale of people living in Angola or in Cuba or places like that, but they get a little window into that then enriches their faith back at home as well. So I think that's very important.
Yeah, you hear all the time the volunteers say, I had no idea.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the common response that you hear, and you hear them say, my life is completely changed because ding, ding, you know, the doors have opened in my brain and I see life completely differently than I did before. So I think having the volunteers involved is wonderful. So you have that piece of the impact of what we do, plus the opportunity to meet the physical needs of people, whether it's a water well or a school or a church or many other types of buildings also over the years.
Well, we could spend so much time going through, like you said, almost every project. There's some, I mean, I think of even the summer we were at in the Dominican Republic at the dedication of the Ciudad del Cielo school campus and church, and just the land issues, trying to like make sure we got all 12 plots of land or whatever it was to get that project to work. COVID presented all sorts of challenges logistically with within countries, borders being shut down or airports being shut down. So many different challenges.
Yeah, I can tell you, Dustin, that almost every day there's something that comes up that we don't even talk about. That's tough issues. Sometimes you can't talk about it. Sometimes it involves personalities, people that you can't share. But I tell you what, I have learned that God's going to be there for us. I mean, He has for, 56, 7 years, and I don't know why He would stop now. I mean, we live in a crazy world. I mean, there's a lot of challenges out there in so many different ways, but keep going until God says that's enough.
Well, one of the most, I think, unique, and you're right, a lot of times, this isn't a topic we really talk about a lot, so I think it's an interesting look at kind of the reality of what it's like to put on all these projects around the world. One of the most unique projects, I think, just because of the location and what it involved for our crew, has been our work in the place called, I don't know if you want to call it a town or a region, but at the northern border of Kenya, right below Ethiopia, is a place called Illoret. Laura, how would you describe Illoret to someone?
Well, I think the first word that comes to my mind is just remote. And I can't really underscore that enough because it takes forever to get out there. We were lucky enough that we got this like little tiny plane that dropped us down pretty close, but we still, it's like an hour or two driving on nothing, like sand and dirt. And while you're driving there, you're seeing all these large dead animal carcasses, of course, dead trees, dead everything. And you're like, what are we doing? What are we doing all the way out here? And why?
Who could be out here?
You keep asking yourself, why would someone live out here? What in the world would possess them to live out here? But much like people, I remember, because I grew up in Minnesota, people are like, why do people live there? And I'm like, yeah, that's a good question. And now I don't live there, and I love Minnesota. It's got to be one of the most beautiful states in the country. It really is.
Yeah, back up.
Beep, beep, beep. But, people live there because of their family, because it's their heritage. And I would say that's probably very similar to what's going on with this Daasanach tribe, is they're living there because that is their family heritage. And their family, their friends, everything they know, everything they love is right there.
Plus, they don't have a lot of options. I mean, they're not going to get in the family car and drive down to Nairobi and say, I think I'll move here. That isn't an option for them at all.
We did ask them, why don't you eat those dead carcasses? They're like, hey, they died of something. We don't want to, we know that, that's not good. You don't eat that stuff, because what did they die from? I mean, they're very smart.
And I can remember the first time that we went up to we built 4 one-day churches initially. And we drove out there. This was a place called Elbogash. Did I get that right? And we drive up to, and the place is packed with people. I'm going, what are all these people doing
and
here?
you look around, you're like, where did they come from? Because I'm not seeing any village or what is where in the world? But anyway.
But that particular location, we came up and they're singing. And it didn't sound very good to my ear.
But a lot of enthusiasm.
Yeah, there was
a lot of
enthusiasm. I'm going, it's kind of grinding a little bit. I've talked through the 2 translators you had to get to the Daasanach language. What are they saying? Because they just kept going, and they're pretty enthusiastic. That's the word. And he says, well, here's what they're saying. They're saying, we are so grateful to God for all his blessings to us. Look at this building he's given us. I'm going, really? Because I couldn't see a bunch of blessings that they had. I mean, I wouldn't consider living there and having a roof over myself and all the people around me to be a great blessing from God that deserved praise and adoration to him, but they did.
Well, and as we describe this land, I mean, it's a lot of reed, grass huts that people are living in.
Yeah.
There is no steel, galvanized steel, metal roofs. There's nothing like that. It's a stark contrast to where they're actually living, to having this church that they're able to worship in that's not going to blow over. It's not going to get destroyed in a windstorm, anything like that.
Of course, the bottom line, after you provide that building for them, what is it that they really need? Well, they need water. Yeah. They don't have water.
You talked about them living out in this remote wilderness where there's nothing. And it's really more of a survival, right? I mean, they're surviving, and they've figured out a way.
I mean, it's survival.
They've figured out a way to somehow survive in this harsh environment. One of the big things because before I got there and we were on the same trip, people kept saying there's no water here. And I'm like, well, yeah, but there has to be water somewhere. Where do they get water?
Well, it's a few miles away in a riverbed, and then they dig down with sometimes like these little plastic, what they've made like a kind of homemade plastic scoop of some sort. And in some cases, they just get a little bottle cap. Like they're filling up a bottle cap, one bottle cap at a time. Not all cases, but in some cases, that's what they're doing. I mean, can you imagine?
And these are like in dry riverbeds. They're digging these holes. Some of these holes are literally 10 feet, 15 feet down.
Yeah.
And, specifically at El Bagash, I got to meet this girl named Nakulea, and we walked her daily walk for water. And I used my watch to kind of track the mileage, and it was 1.2 miles round trip for her to go down to the river and back. And she said, yeah, sometimes, if it's needed, we'll go 5 times.
Wow.
So,
and I mean, does it look like water you'd want to drink?
No.
Yeah, it's usually pretty dirty.
So we came in to provide wells for them. As you know, don't want to take too much time on the Daasanach people, but that El Bagash church is one of the places that we were going to drill a well.
And we had some experts telling us, they did some fracture trace analysis, and they said, you got to drill down by the river. But that really wasn't what the people wanted.
You're way ahead of me. Yes, you've got the story.
And that's what they said. They're like, oh, no, we want you to drill. It would be better to have a well right here by the church.
Well, the experts knew that the water issue is big enough that it hasn't been solved in their lifetime.
Yeah.
So we went up there to just see what God might do for these people. And it was a big leap of faith and a lot of time and a lot of money and a lot of effort to try to help them. But El Bagash particularly, they had said over here, quite a ways from the church, is the only shot you got.
The experts said that.
The experts said that. Well, the church member says, no, we want the well by the church.
And they were afraid of, I think in the past, there had been a rare flash flood that had just rushed down that river where they were wanting to put the well and just swept people away. And
well, people, plus it would have taken the well out.
Yeah.
So that's what they're saying is don't do that. We want the well by the church. Well, they said the experts says there's absolutely no chance of water there. So we told them that, and they said, well, that's not a problem. We'll pray. Okay, that sounds good. So I sat with the country director at the time the night before we had to make a decision. What are we going to do here? Because if you drill up by the church and we knew that there'd be no water, you're going to waste all that equipment and somebody isn't going to get a well. Or alternately, you tell the people, no, we're not going to drill here, we're going to drill over here, and they're going to say you guys don't have any faith. Mm-hmm. So what do you do? It's kind of a tough decision. And we said, well, we don't actually know what God's going to do here. He can bring water out of a place that an expert says there isn't any. He's done it, through the history of the world. So we said, okay, let's go ahead, because they will never understand why we didn't drill there. Mm-hmm. So we said, let's go ahead and give it a shot. And when they find out that there's no water there, then we'll have to drill back in the riverbed. Well, so we bring the rig up there, and they start drilling, and they hit water, and it wasn't very deep. They had to go like 30 meters. They hit water, and everybody was jumping and screaming. Well, you know. Then they find out that the water's salty, which isn't a big surprise because the big lake that's not terribly far away, it's super salty. That's their problem. The water that they can find is super salty, hardly usable. So I think that you were interviewing me, Dustin, about that, and I was explaining that the water had come up and that it was salty, and I said, but hey, God can even fix that. You never know.
You said it's an ongoing story.
It's an ongoing story.
Because we did that interview right after they had hit water, and we didn't know what was going to happen.
And right after that, we walked over to where the road, I can't remember, and they said, hey, they reset the well, the pump.
Flushing it out.
And flushed it out. It's pure.
Sweet water.
Sweet water.
Pretty amazing.
And it is to this day.
Wow.
Pretty amazing.
Pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty cool.
It's, I mean, that it has to be a miracle. It's a double miracle. But the people just say, well, of course, we prayed.
Yeah, they're expecting it.
Yeah, they actually expect it. And you could repeat that on a lot of the wells that we've drilled around the world. They expect it. God honors their faith. And we sit back and go, what's wrong with me?
Yeah, it's a much bigger lesson, I think, for us than it is for them. Mm-hmm. But
and the life change that occurred for that village is just incredible.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
They are now healthier. There is better hygiene, and there's not these long, like Nakulea was telling me, 6 miles sometimes in a day, making repeat trips back down to the dry riverbed.
And the water wasn't any good, really, what they did get.
Right, exactly.
So,
you know, we bring up this story because when we are having to make those tough decisions, especially in a place that's so remote like Ilaret, we don't have unlimited supplies.
Yeah.
There's only a certain number of rods they can insert into the ground as they're drilling these wells section by section. And this site in particular was 3 or 4 days drive from where our headquarters is in Kenya. They're near the capital city of Nairobi, up to the Ethiopian border. And I remember the country director at the time saying, you guys have to pack your rigs. And there was 11 vehicles they took in this convoy that went up from the capital city to Ilaret. And he said, you have to pack like you're going to another planet because we're not coming back. You can't go down to the store. You can't
Oops, I forgot something.
Yeah. There's no way that you're going to be able to get anything that you need. You have to take it all. You can't forget anything.
Yeah.
And just their journey getting up to that location, between 100-degree temperatures, no air conditioning, and most of the big rigs that we have.
Yeah.
They're doing the drilling, breaking down. No roads at all. They're kind of just following GPS and going this direction. After the road ends, and that I think had Maranatha ever in your that you can recall gone through such a logistically difficult as far as like equipment and the distance traveled and materials, like
maybe Afghanistan, but we worked there, but that's another story.
Yeah.
But one of the things that was interesting to me is to watch the impact on the guys that did the drilling. We hired people, the best drillers we could get. They weren't necessarily Christians, and after that experience at Ilaret, and they'd been in a lot of wells, they'd seen a lot of interesting things, but there was a group of them that were baptized. They said, hey, I want to be part of this God. So he's a God who answers prayer, and let's get on board with this. So that was impactful for me personally to see that even our own workers were being impacted spiritually by what took place.
I happened to be at morning worship with the team when they were, in fact, I think it was Sabbath morning before we went to church at one of the one-day churches. And one of the team leads just threw it out there. And he said, hey, you've been seeing some pretty incredible things.
Yeah.
And no pressure, but, God wants you to join us, not just in this physical work, but in the spiritual pursuit that we're all in. And
Right.
yeah, it's pretty amazing, like seeing people raise their hands like, yes, I want to get baptized.
Yeah, it's a good example. It takes in a lot of the characteristics and issues that we face in a lot of places to a greater or lesser degree. Every place has something. It doesn't necessarily have all those things, but it has some challenge. And that's part of the fun, is you see the challenge, you see the opportunity, you combine the two with the power of God, and you've got amazing results.
It's an interesting business to be in because it really does combine the physical world that we live in and the spiritual element. You actually, so many times, I know both of you personally have seen God's hand reach into our own little physical world here and do miracles that don't make sense. And it's one of those opportunities. It's a job that where you actually really see the spiritual interact in the physical world once in a while, but also to keep in mind that ultimately it is the spiritual thing that we're after. It's the spiritual change that God is after, and we're just trotting along behind him saying, I think that's a great idea, God. I like what you did for me. Maybe somebody else would want the same opportunity. I know they're out there.
That's
I
why
know
it's
they're
great.
searching.
That's why it's great to have the volunteers go, because they get to see it.
Mm-hmm.
They get to experience it. For example, a lot of people say, "Oh yeah, well, where does the money come for this?" They think the church is paying for it over there, or the local people are paying. They can't pay in most of the places that we're working. But learning in your own heart, because we tend to be self, keep, me, and you get into mission, and God says, no, I'm a generous God. Learn to give. That's the opposite of the selfishness, is the generosity. And people get to see that along with a lot of other things when they're involved in mission.
Well, one of the most selfless things that I saw on that trip was just our crew and how much they put into making that trip happen logistically, and then also being able to hit water and build churches on the same trip. It was, I think we all experienced some level of transformation. The local people, us that were there with Maranatha, the workers getting baptized. And also you got inducted into the Daasanach tribe.
That's great. Yeah, but you won't forget it either, Dustin. I know you won't.
No.
You can't forget it. No. It's too big of an impact in your life.
Yeah.
In fact, I've had volunteers say to me, some of them said on our board of directors, they say, I try to get out of Maranatha, but I can't. I can't quit. It's not possible for me anymore. I've been too involved. I've seen too much. I've experienced too much. I'm a lifer. I'm in.
Yeah.
I think we sometimes think the mission field is there, not realizing that we are also the mission field.
Absolutely.
Our lives
That's a
are
really
being
good
touched.
point.
And we're thinking, I'm going to go and I'm going to do this thing and I'm going to work in the field, not realizing
Out
that
there. Yeah.
that the field is here. You know,
Yeah.
we are the mission field as well.
That's so true.
Well, let's take a little break from talking about difficult things and all the challenges that we've had in working in different places, and we're going to enter our rapid fire question round. Are you excited? Are you scared? Ready? Okay.
I don't think we're scared.
Okay, good.
On your mark,
All right. So I'm gonna ask a question. You're just gonna respond. Christina, you can jump in too if you have something. So the first question is, and answer as concisely as you can, and we can always ask some follow-up questions afterwards. Biggest travel pet peeves that you have?
Oh man, for me, it's when people talk really loud on a plane. On those long flights, they're either playing their music or talking really loud, and it's like 2 a.m. I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Well, or the the parents that put on their noise canceling headsets while their kids are screaming. it's a tough one.
At least hand them out for others.
Yeah.
What's that?
At least they should hand them out to
Bring
others
them
if
for
they're going to do that.
your neighbors. Yeah.
Yeah, I was on a flight once. It was a long flight. I was with Don Kirkman, and we were coming back from the Far East somewhere. It was 10 or 12
Board
hours.
member.
Pardon me?
I was just clarifying. Yeah, board member.
Yeah, board member, yeah. And we had 100 orphan babies on that flight.
100 orphan babies.
Oh, yeah.
Like babies? Like,
Babies.
Like two and
Babies.
under?
Oh, one
Younger
and
than
under.
that? Oh, my goodness.
I don't know why that was.
Yeah.
Never found all that out. But I can tell you that was a fun flight. So when I hear one child screaming
You're
now,
like,
I go, well, I can
could
tell
be
you,
worse.
I can tell you it can be worse.
You have lived it. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Don, do you know how many countries you've been to? Like, just approximately.
120, 30, 40, I don't know,
Yeah,
somewhere in
okay.
there.
That all.
You guys have both been to a lot of
Oh,
countries.
it's over 100, yeah.
Is there a country, though, that you've never been to that's kind of on your bucket list that you would love to visit at some point?
Yeah, how about Iceland?
Yeah? Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good one.
In fact, we're actually thinking about it.
All right.
So, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Laura, any
You better have the same one. No.
Hey, if you go to Iceland, I'll go with you. I can tell you that. I surprisingly, no. I have been really thrilled. My sites are probably too small, but if I died today, I would be so happy with everything that I've been able to do and see, and like God has been in it. I'd be like, this has been great, God. I love you.
good to be content?
Yeah.
That's good. What is a country that Maranatha has worked in nearly 90 countries around the world. What is a country we haven't worked in yet, or a region that you would love to see Maranatha work in if it worked out at some point?
Well, there's one country that keeps coming up. I don't know if we may have built a one-day church there. I'm not sure, but they've changed the name of it. I think it's Eswatini now. We've been trying to get a school built over there. It keeps coming up. The division president from down there has talked to us recently about it again, and he said he knows the king. And
Is this the country that's inside of South Africa?
Yeah, it used to be called Swaziland.
yeah, it was Swaziland.
Yeah.
They changed the name to Eswatini.
I'm just checking right now. We
Yeah.
we actually have built
I think
some
we built
one-day
it.
churches there, yeah.
But it wasn't a place that volunteers went, that they could experience a unique culture, a unique place. I think that'd be nice for the volunteers. I like to find places of all the requests that come in. Where are the volunteers going to want to go?
Mm-hmm.
Where can they be safe?
Yeah.
Those are issues that we have to look at. We can't just say, yeah, we got a request from a church in whatever country, we're going to go build it. No, there's a lot of things that we have to look at, criteria that we have to consider before you agree to go to a place. And high on the list is safety for the volunteers.
And we're setting up for the long term. We're trying to do something that is not just going to be 6 months or a year. Like usually we're working to make sure that we're fulfilling a worthwhile list of projects if we're agreeing to something like that.
Yeah, there's
So
people
makes
that think
sense.
that we're going to go out and build one church in
Right.
a country. It's completely not cost effective to do that.
And we used to, right?
You can't make that work. So I still have people come up to me because I don't expect people to understand what we do. I mean, why would they? But they'll still say, "Oh, I hear about this project, this Illuret project or whatever it was. What's your next project?"
Yeah, right.
Well, we're generally doing a lot of
As if we're
projects
just
at the
doing
same
Which
time.
continent do you
one
want us
building
to-
a year,
wanna
and
talk
then
about? Yeah.
next year we're going to do another building. And
Can
then-
you imagine?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you kind of know, like, oh, they probably don't know a whole lot about Maranatha, and that's okay,
All right, last question. I don't know if we're still in the rapid fire round, but the last question here.
Somebody else answer it. No.
What is the most unique gift you've ever been given or offered on one of your trips?
Well, we have gotten a lot of chickens and goats, which never made it to the overhead on United Airlines, I will have to say. But, holding a chicken and smiling in absolute downpour rain, and it's like freezing cold, and you're like, hurry up and take the picture, because this chicken is not happy, Or like goats and things, I kind of like goats, but I know they're not giving you a goat. I mean, that's a food source for them. So that's kind of a little bit of a sad thing for me. But
I kind of hate to take presents from the people that we're going to. They want to do something to say thank you, and they don't have a lot. And I appreciate that. And the sentiment is really, it's valuable. Yeah. But I don't bring a lot of things back from the trips. Some of the things that I get, I don't bring it. It's... you can't haul everything, because sometimes they'll give you something very large. They're not thinking about the fact, how are you going to carry that on the plane? You can't get it through customs or whatever it is. But
ultimately,
weapons probably at some point. You might have been gifted a
machete or something, spear or something like that.
Right.
When it comes to the mission of Maranatha, there is more than one way to get involved. You can jump right in with both feet by going on a mission trip. You can organize your own with Maranatha's help, or join a project that we've already organized. There are no limitations, and anyone can serve. You can choose to give by making a donation to parts of the mission that inspire you most. From projects in specific countries to programs like water, the $10 church, or the one-day church, every dollar you give goes where you want to help. As a self-supporting organization, Maranatha's work relies on the generosity of all our donors to operate. Keep up to date with all the good that is taking place around the world by subscribing to our emails and our magazine, or watch Maranatha Mission Stories, our weekly television program, and any of the hundreds of videos on our website and Maranatha Channel app. Follow us day to day on our social media accounts and watch short videos or browse photos straight from the mission field. Most importantly, you can pray. Pray for the safe travel of our team around the world, the volunteers, the donors who give so fully to those in need. Pray for wisdom as we aim to transform lives in the field and right here at home. And pray for faith, love, and support for this work, this mission, for Maranatha. Jesus, come soon.
All right, great job. We got through the rapid fire question round. Before we continue our discussion on the challenges, logistical challenges, all the difficulties in pulling off Maranatha projects, Don, you were on Inside Missions previously, and you told a lot of great stories. At the end, we realized you had a story you didn't get to tell, so I just wanted to ask it right here. Tell us about your very first Maranatha trip that you ever went on.
Well, okay.
In 200 words or less, please.
That's not going to be possible, but we'll try to do it rapid fire. There was a group of us that was going down. We're going down to the island of Dominica, where Maranatha had done some housing projects after Hurricane David that hit there. In fact, Roger Hatch, I think, built 110 or 15 houses there. And about the same time, Van Vandenheuvel, another board member, was building 160 homes following that same hurricane in Dominican Republic. So hurricanes get us involved in projects. Isn't that good news? So hurricanes have an impact. So we were going down there, and we were flying a private aircraft, which is very common at the beginning of Maranatha, because...
Were you president already?
Yes.
Or was this... Okay.
Yes, I was. But hey, we were called Maranatha Flights International at that time. So a lot of the guys had their own planes. It's not as common now. It's become more expensive and, whatever.
You know what? I don't want to derail this story, but wouldn't it be cool to do a throwback trip in private planes, like recreate some of the projects from the past?
Hey,
think about it.
Yeah, you don't know.
Think about it. Think about it.
Hey,
Yeah.
We'll send.
I'll fly a plane.
We'll
Yeah.
send,
I'm a pilot.
See? Yeah. We'll send our media team. It'll be like recreating the trips that we never got to film. Yeah. Think about that.
So, cutting the pieces short on this, there were 6 of us in this plane, and we flew from basically Ohio down to Florida, and we were coming into land at night in, I forget, it was north of Miami. And on touchdown, the right landing gear broke off. And we went...
Maybe let's not do this. Let's not do this.
So we went sliding down the runway, spinning.
Oh, my goodness.
Wow.
And, I kind of figured that this was going to be the end. It's interesting things that go through your mind. I can relive that, by the way, anytime I want in my mind. But we ended up coming to a stop, and we didn't blow up.
So you're spinning on the belly of the plane.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Well, the belly and the right wing, yeah. And so I opened the door, and I was by where everybody had to get out. So I jumped out, and everybody else got up, and we ran from the plane because we thought it was going to blow up. And one of the guys hadn't gotten out. Where is he? Where is he? So we waited just a minute. The plane didn't blow up, so a couple of us went back, and he was strapped in with a seatbelt. It was such a trauma. It traumatized him, so he was going like this.
Just going back and forth.
So we, let him out. And so that began this
So
trip.
the plane never did blow up.
It did not, but it was totaled.
Praise the Lord.
The airplane was totaled. And so we ended up the next day going to the Miami airport and getting on a commercial flight. And we flew to, we didn't go straight to, Dominica. We went to Barbados. And we overnighted in Barbados at the conference mission center, whatever it was. Got up in the morning, went to the airport, and guess what? There was a war going on, and it was being centered out of that airport. It's so
Barbados.
Yeah, the United States invaded Grenada that day. It was 1983.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
And I mean, you can read it in history. And so we were put off in this room, waited many, many, many hours until finally we were able to fly over to another island where we were going to get on a boat and go to another island to look at a project.
And you're thinking, I just started this job. Is this the way it's going to be?
Well, no, you got to keep going before I ask that question. So we ended up eventually flying over to this other island, and they had a little boat there, and there was a captain of the boat. I think he was 12 or 13 years old. It was a long, narrow boat. The 6 of us got on the boat with him, and we headed out, I forget how many miles, out to a little island called Bequia. If you look at explore.maranatha.org, you'll find Bequia was a project that we ended up doing, but we were going out to check it out. But it was kind of rough seas, and the captain said, somebody needs to go out on the bow, to kind of stabilize this thing. Well, at that particular time, I was the youngest and probably the most agile, so I'm out there, and it's every time you hit a wave, it was like a 100-gallon bucket of water went on my head. And so we finally pull up into the shore. Here's all the saints greeting us, and I'm a drowned rat, right? And they said, would you be the president? I said, oh yeah, that's me.
Wow.
And,
Talk about the lengths you go to just to evaluate a project.
yeah, we went to evaluate. Then we're heading back late afternoon, and we're about halfway across, and the boat breaks down. Okay.
Nice.
Doesn't work. So he says, no problem. I'll get on the radio, and I'll call the St. Vincent. I'll call the police, and they'll come tow us in. Well, his radio didn't work. So here we are bobbing around out here in the water, not knowing what's going to happen. But finally, the police did come by, and they towed us in. And so...
What a start.
It's not done. Yeah, I know it was rapid fire you wanted, but... So we ended up flying back to Barbados. Things had toned down a little bit in terms of the war. They let us fly in there. we were so late that the church leaders had given up on us coming back. And so everything was locked up. We couldn't get into the place that we were staying where our stuff was. But there was a nice high wall, and Roger Hatch was with us. He was one of our board members. And he says, Don, just climb over the wall. You just jump on my back and climb up over and let us in. So I did. So we broke into the mission headquarters,
Nice
so we'd
touch.
have a place to
Yeah.
to sleep that night. And I said, Roger, is this how all the projects are? He says, this isn't too hard for you, is it? I says, no, I assumed that there was going to be adventure. But
Boy,
that was quite a bit of
you got
adventure
it.
for the first trip.
Oh my goodness. Well, sounds like we need to recreate that as a whole episode too. You can maybe get on that, Christina. Laura, you talked about your first trip with Maranatha in your previous episodes, so I guess people could go back and listen to that. It was in Cuba, and we wanted to ask about Cuba because Cuba is a place that we've worked for over 30 years, right? That we've been working there.
Yeah, it's May of '94.
It's been a place that we have really, I would say, struggled at times to be able to make any progress in working there. But we've continued to, be patient, look for ways that we can help. How did we first get involved, and why would we go to a place, a communist country where it might be difficult to work?
Well, we were in Guatemala. We'd done a bunch of projects there, and there was a big event there, like 15,000 people out there. The General Conference president was there, and it was a big deal. We were in the hotel in the evening, and there was a group of us sitting around, and the group included Tim Suarez, who was a Maranatha board member, and he also was a Cuban-born American. And he always wanted to do something to go back to that country, but people were afraid to go there. There'd been no success at all. But there was another guy there. His name was Garvin McNeilis. And he says, well, has anybody tried? Has anybody actually tried to do something there? And that's a good question. And so
I think it's a question that we ask a lot, in Maranatha. It's like, well, has anybody tried? Have we tried,
Don't assume you can't do it. I mean, God can do anything. It's so we put together a trip. There was 5 of us that went down, and we took a tour around and got started there. It was put together a program called the 700 Plan for bringing Christ to Cuba. It was wonderful, and we've seen the church grow a lot down there. There's been challenges up and down that you can't even believe, and they're facing a lot of them right now. Maybe even worse than the past, but we'll see.
What has made the work there in Cuba so difficult over the years? We've built or refurbished or renovated, I should say, over 200 churches, homes that are used as churches, but it has not been easy. What have been some of the main roadblocks, I guess, in making the work happen there?
Well, everything there is based on permission. And sometimes you get the permission and sometimes you don't. And things don't come together. You can plan all you want. And it's slow, which is frustrating. I'm the type of person who likes to see things get done. Let's go. Well, you have to be patient. And maybe that's the idea, is teach patience. But if you look back and you say what has happened over the years, it's actually pretty phenomenal. That the church has grown a lot. Down there, they don't see a difference between Maranatha and the organized church. We work so closely that I've been excited to be able to see what's happening. I mean, I've sat in their customs halls for 1 year. The average was 5 hours waiting to get admitted to the country. And so, yeah, plenty of challenges from that standpoint. But,
I think that is actually one of the keys. And I don't think that one should spend their life looking back, right? But you need to look back every now and then, because sometimes it seems like we're just making such slow progress. Are we moving forward? Yeah, but it's like a fraction of an inch at the time. But when you look back, you say, well, you know what? There are over 200 churches that we built, let's say, in Cuba. It was a very difficult, slow, place to work. But yeah, There's over two, and all those people that have gone through those churches. I mean, all the lives changed and whatnot. So it is important to look back and remember, like, okay, God is working here.
Well, one of the reasons Cuba has worked for the Adventist Church is they haven't gotten involved in politics. Some of the other groups, they just can't help themselves, and they get involved in speaking politically and get involved. The Adventist Church hasn't chosen to do that, which is, you really need to stay out of that. I mean, I've gotten to know the minister of religion for the country. Yes, Cuba has a minister of religion, and nice people. Yeah. But it's a slow process. Challenges with money, with changes in rules, regulations, whatever you have to pivot on. It's hard.
Then recently, we were down in Cuba a few years ago. I was there at least. You guys were doing a lot of other things too, but trying to tell the story of it's not just the need for churches. We really wanted to try to help in a really difficult economic situation. And then you went down, Christina, recently for one of the projects that we were doing at the New Avitas Church.
Actually, it was at the seminary. We did not.
You didn't.
Yeah,
go there.
We didn't go to New Avitas.
But what is the current life like, Laura, for an average person in Cuba? And it's been that way for several years, but it's also fluctuated over the last more than 30 years.
Yeah, I mean, it really fluctuates. It seems like it fluctuates, but it almost seems like almost every time you go, it seems like it's just getting a little worse. The opportunity, the even just basic infrastructure. When you think about living without electricity, and that's one of their big issues right now is no electricity, fuel shortage, like anything that has to do with energy. Boy, they need it, and it's interesting because they have their own natural gas, they have oil there, they have things but they don't have the infrastructure to make that work for them. So it's that part is frustrating. But if you walk up and down the streets in Havana, there are these beautiful, what I think of like, there's a painting around every corner. I just want to get out my paint set and aloha, it's so beautiful. Yeah. But you walk inside those buildings and these people are the kindest, most hospitable people I think I've ever met, right along with the Dominicans, They're so kind. I'm like, can I come in? Can I just, come on in, la, 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 they're just, and I just want to see, come look, come see. And you look at what they're living in, it's like, oh my word. I mean, we would consider these people homeless or worse, like living in empty buildings in our country. That's in a sense what it's like, is like they're living in an evacuated downtown building with no running water, no electricity, or virtually no electricity. I mean, it's like, it's tough.
So what happens with the church in a situation like this? To kind of revert back to what we were saying toward the beginning, is when you don't have anything else to rely on, you rely on God. So the churches are full all the time. Mostly the ones that we've built.
Their families are close. They're very close with their friends. Like the people are a kind, giving, like actually really great people.
And they even like Americans, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things we've been doing over the last several years is trying to provide a little bit of hope, a little bit of extra resources in the form of shipping containers full of critical aid and supplies, food, medicine that can help get them a little bit further down the road and just, help in whatever way we can.
Yeah, for example, we learned of a problem that has come up over the last few years is having Bibles. They used to not have too much trouble getting Bibles in last decade or so, but they just don't have Bibles for the growth that's happening in the church. So what they've reverted to is they only give a Bible to somebody after they're baptized because they don't have very many. And I said,
that doesn't make sense.
Something's wrong with that.
Have baptisms but people can't read it. Yeah.
Pardon me?
Yeah, how are you going to have baptisms if people can't read about Jesus?
Yeah, right. So there were some donors that says, hey, we don't like that either. So we were able to get 14,000 Bibles printed, and the Bible includes a hymnal and study lessons and everything else. And it took quite a long time, but we shipped it into Cuba, and it sat at the port for a long time.
I was going to say, talking about logistical difficulties, shipping things in containers, and we've shipped 15 or more containers, I think, to Cuba over the last several years. But in the past, we've also, when there hasn't been infrastructure in countries to manufacture our own steel components for churches, we have also shipped things in at times too. And I know that has caused some holdups at times because it's stuck in the port in customs or whatever.
Before you get too far away, we did get the Bibles out.
Oh, good.
Just recently.
And we have been able to distribute a lot of that food. I mean, all the food.
The food we got, we're shipping everything from Panama, by the way.
Yeah.
And we have 2 containers in Panama as we speak, ready to ship if we can work it out.
Now, I think it's a little unique that we've been there, for so long continuously. We don't typically stay in a lot of places that long, and it would be easy to say when you hit up against a roadblock, okay, maybe we take a break, maybe we come back when the situation's a little bit easier. Why haven't we done that? What is it about this place that makes you want to push beyond all of that? The container delays, the red tape, all of that stuff to say, let's just keep going. Because it's a very unique situation there.
Well, unique is exactly right. In fact, I have asked myself at several different points of our involvement there, okay, I believe that God is saying that this is the end. Mm-hmm. Then something will come up. Maybe it's as simple as a donor saying, hey, I want to support some more projects in Cuba, so do you shut it down? Well, no, you keep going.
Well, you're just following God's lead. Like, okay, God, all right, not yet.
You think it's about done, and then it clearly, if you sit back and look at it, pray about it, think about it, it's not done. So we keep going. Plus, here's the issue. Having people that understand us, are willing to work with us, that we have a trust relationship. If you let them go, how do you start the thing back up again? Mm-hmm. It's not as easy as just, I'll hire Joe and he'll go down there and do this. No, people cannot walk into that society and be effective. You may think you can, but you can't, because it's going to be very different from anything that you are familiar with.
That's an interesting point, yeah. Well, it's such an uncertain future for Cuba right now, but if you had to kind of give your thoughts about the outlook for Maranatha's work and for the church in Cuba, what would you say right now?
Oh, man. If you just watch the news right now, you know how volatile the situation is. I don't have to tell you. And it's society that's got some problems. And I don't know how it's going to get solved. I don't know, but I do know that God has a lot of people there that he loves and cares about. And I think we'll keep going until we can't. I mean, we just finished the church that we shipped all the materials in from Panama. Mm-hmm. You'll hear people say, oh, just build this, build that. Everything, you have to have permission, and they don't have any materials that you can buy. You can't go buy a bag of, you can buy one bag of cement, but you can't buy enough to build a building. And steel, we shipped everything from Panama. And it's a beautiful little church out in a place called Nuevitas that we were going to do a nice dedication for those that helped support it. Well, right now isn't the right time for that, unfortunately. So we've said, just go ahead and use it, please.
Yeah. Well, each church that we've built in Cuba, the logistics in Ilaret, all these other, we didn't even get to talk about all sorts of countries that we've worked in the past that, have been challenging, but each roadblock, is overcome by that final goal of reaching people for Jesus, like you were talking about earlier. I think if we were selling products, it might not be a great business model for some of the decisions and pushing through where it would be an easy decision to not continue on that
Hey,
path.
there's easier fish to fry. Go there.
Yeah.
You know?
If you're just trying to make money doing something, you would have changed course. But
but people are motivated to get involved when their heart's in it. That's why the volunteer aspect is so positive and important, because their heart is there. They see the need. They want to help. In general, a Christian wants to help somebody. It comes out of them because that's God in you.
Because that's God in it.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing.
So
well, I thank you, Don and Laura, for joining us on this conversation of something that we don't often talk about a lot, but it's interesting to be able to hear some of the logistical challenges that we have. And
we've scratched the surface.
We've scratched the surface. Yeah, as you mentioned, it's something that you deal with almost every day. And and for you that's listening or watching, thank you for joining us this Peek Inside Missions. And you can learn more about the work of Maranatha at our website, maranatha.org. And if you'd like to join us in overcoming some of these obstacles around the world that get thrown our way, get involved by making a donation at maranatha.org or volunteering. You can support either way at maranatha.org. We'll see you next time.
Have you considered writing a book?
They always say, "Hey, you ought to write a book."
Yeah.
I says, "Would you read it?" And they say, "Well, maybe."